Alright guys, we're going to do some flint knapping today. And the theme is hardware store flint knapping. And what I'm going to show you is the basic things and how to use some basic stuff from the hardware store. This is pressure flaker. And it has simply a number, I want to say 8 or 10, somewhere in there. Just a big nail in it for pressure flaking. We have a cheap file from Harbor Freight for adjusting our tools. We have a notcher with the nail pounded flat. I don't do much notching, so I don't use it very often. We have a billet. This is for the indirect and for direct percussion. You can do some direct percussion. This is a piece of black iron pipe and a black iron cap. I've had it for years. Thanks Jack Crafty, I never would have thought of that. Here's the main tool. And this is just a big nail. I think these are number 6 common spike. And I cut the head off. And just use some baling wire to strap it to a stick that I picked out of the yard. That'll be the indirect. This can also be pressure flaker, just how it is. Just like that. No modification at all. We have some flint flakes. These aren't from the hardware store, but you know. Channel locks for adjusting the flint flakes. When they get loose, you can tighten them up with this. You know, you don't want your flint flakes getting loose. This is your basic tile cutter, and that's the first tool we're going to use. I'm going to show you. Now you could use cut glass, but you can also cut, say you have a big flat flake like this. See how thin that flake is and how big. If you try to make a point with this, you waste half of it. So what you do is you just get a drop of water. Watch how slick this works, guys. You don't need a tile saw or anything like that. Put a drop of water on there, or a splash of water, whatever you call it. You pick where you want to cut. Come right down through the middle there. That wasn't a good one because I was holding it in my hand. I'm going to set it on my bench and cut it. Then this thing has a nifty little bendy part where you can put it on there. And just like that, I have 2 arrowhead blanks. I love this thing. I use it for tile, for when I'm knapping glass. If I have big flakes that are going to be, you know, wasting flint. Well, now, you may say, how are you tightening up your flakes? Okay. Now, what I want is it's called a Madison style point. Let me get my pen. And in the beginning, it'll help you to do this. I got a black marker. I'm making a Madison, which is generally around 3/4 to an inch wide and 1 inch to 1 1/4 inches long. Now, I make this a little bigger, and I look for the best way it's going to fit. If you look down this, you can see this curve. Well, we don't want that, so we know that that's gone. And then this thin end will probably be my point, and this end will be my base. So we'll draw just a rough guideline. We don't want to be exactly the measurements because we're still going to flint knap a little bit. And we don't want this crunchy stuff on the end. Now, I'm going to tighten this flint up. And how I'm going to do it is I'm going to I'm just going to nibble at this. I'm not trying to take it all at once. Get as much as I feel safe doing, because it don't do me no good if I break the flake. And come over here, and this has all got to go. So this rock is from Andy Bennett, and I'm going to do a Spallin video tonight, a short how I make these big flat flakes, and so that's going to be another video I'm going to do in a little bit as soon as I get this one done. Now this is basically, if you're a beginner and you don't know if you're going to like flint knapping, I mean, because sometimes you start doing it and you'd be like, well, this is hard. But remember, nothing worth doing is easy. Okay, so we've roughed out our shape just like that. Now this isn't going to really need an indirect because it's this is a simple flake. I'm going to show you how to shape it and sharpen it. It's not going to be all flaked. It's not going to be what some people would call a pretty arrowhead. But what it will be is perfectly serviceable to put on the end of a homemade arrow and you know, go bow hunting with. That's all I care about. Now, I do make jewelry points, but I don't make them like this. I make these with the thought that I'm going to shoot them at a squirrel or a rabbit or a grouse or a turkey. They're going to fly. They're going to get lost. You know, this whole hunting thing. I like to make a lot of arrows because I want to shoot. I don't want to be like, oh no, I have 4 arrows, I don't want to shoot. I want to have a bunch of arrows with points, and I want to be able to shoot whenever I manage to get close enough to something. For me, that's 15 yards. I have to be within 15 yards. You know, a squirrel or a rabbit or something I'll shoot because most of the time I'm going to miss anyways. I'll go out to like 20 on them. Because you either hit them or you don't. It's not like a deer or a bear or something where you can, you know, hit them a bad shot and, you know, really not be a very good hunter for that. You know, where a squirrel, if you hit a squirrel with this, even without it being sharpened, if you just put this in a thing and hit a squirrel with it, he's done. Same with a rabbit or a grouse. And probably even a turkey, you know, depending on where you hit them. So that's the thoughts on that. And the Madison point was the last point that I know of in my area that was made. That's late woodland, and that was 300 to 1100 years ago. And it's a true arrow point. It's nothing fancy. It's a triangle that's sharp and pointy. So, oh, I did forget to show you. You might want a pad, a pressure flaking pad. This is just a piece of scrap wood from a pallet and 2 pieces of scrap leather from an old belt or boots, I can't remember which. And, you know, it protects your hand when you're pressure flaking. And when you make these points, it's almost all pressure flaking. So, and the best way to start, now, when you're pressure flaking, when you have your stuff in your pressure pad, this is where people get confused too, and where people break their points. I gotta trim this back, it's getting a little out of range. And this side is black marker because if you have a flint like this, see, you can barely see it on this. When you're pressure flaking, you can hardly see it on that, but you can see it over here. Now what I like to do, once I have my channel lock shape, is a thing called zigzagging. Everybody covers this. Almost everything you see will have something to do with zigzagging. Now, I line up my point. I'm never going to press here. Try and make that so you can see it. Okay. I'm going to press here where this keeps it from bending, or I can press, I'm going to press here or here. Never here. Rarely here. Unless it's just a little tiny, like, never pressure there. It'll just snap. Especially if you have, if you've got glass or something that you're using. Now I'm going to try and give you a view, but I press here. I'm hoping you can see this. On this corner, it's virtually straight down, and that gives me a little slant there on the end. You see, a little slant there on the end. Now that is a platform versus something like right here would be an edge. And a platform can go pretty quickly without too much braiding or anything. Now I come back to the middle of that platform. Flip it over. Flip it over. And I'm not going to say flip it over every time, but you get the point. I'm roughly in the middle of that flake that pops off. So my edge doesn't get too low. Now it'll be low on one side, and it'll zig like that, and them will be my platforms for sideways flakes. And now the other thing is, if you push on this, my fingers are just holding it in place. And really I'm just holding with this one finger, and these are just tucked behind to keep it from sliding around. Because your finger over this will cause it to break too. Now you can use copper wire. Number 4 is what I like, but you can use number 6 or 8. Twist it in a circle until it breaks. But this video's for on the cheap. Okay, now I'm going to pressure flake around this because it's boring. I'm going to come back once I've got all the pressure flakes done and show you how to dry flakes. Oh, I'm going to show you how to use the indirect. This is based on Jack Crafty's indirect. He puts it behind his knee. I put it in my hip and a little under my stomach. And this is really easy. It's a lot easier than pressure flaking. Same thing though. You put your flaker in the middle of that flake scar. Turn it over. And just keep going. And you don't need the hand pad for this. You might want to wear a glove, especially if you're new, because you can cut yourself. And if you're not new, I don't know if you really want to be watching this basic video. I mean, I appreciate the viewership, but you know, this is not made for guys that have been napping for years. And you just keep going around your first flakes. Now your finger is behind there, so it's supporting it, and you're not squeezing. You're just letting the tool do the work. And this is why I made it bigger, because sometimes things you don't anticipate happen, like that took a chunk instead of just a little flake. Now you want to get this bevel, because that's what you're going to flake. That's your platform. So you have the edge, which is this part right here that if you feel is sharp, and then you have a bevel. I like the bevel for the platform, not the edge, but some people use the edge. When you do bigger, like spalling, you kind of use a lot of the edge, but I use the platform for that too. Now I'm going to do this other side. You can see I got thick, thin, thick. We want to get all that taken care of. And when you're first new, if you get like a glass, if you're using glass, you have to make sure that you dust yourself off and sweep up, because that glass will be everywhere. And you'll take it in the house, and a family member will get a piece in their feet. These shoes I just wear in here. I walk through the yard scuffing my feet, get the dust off, and when I get to the door, I take them off. So they don't, you know, I don't track little sharp things in. And I also sweep up before I take a walk. Now, if you look back on my videos, I don't always do that, but, you know, trying to look out for family members. Now, if I wish you could feel this, because that edge, since I went off of the previous flake scar, is razor sharp. No abrader, it's razor sharp. If it was shaped a little more pointy, it could literally just go on an arrow like that and do its job. Now you see, this flake is so thin that I don't really have to drive, quote, drive flakes. But there's a hump right here. So how we're going to deal with that, we're going to take our other hardware item. This is also from Harbor Freight. A whole set of these diamond files costs like $4 or $5. Grind that down at an angle. See, at an angle so you can get the flake to come off. If you grind it square, it's harder to flake. So see, I took half of that lump off. And that took the other half. Do one more pass just to get a little bit more. There, we got it good. Now this is good chert from Andy Bennett. This is raw, so it's not as easy to break as other flint would be. Now I've got my basic shape. I'm going to pressure flake it down till I'm almost done, and then I'll come back and do the sharpening pass.